Thank you very much for having me here today. It's great to be in Brazil. I've been here a few times, and it keeps getting better every time I'm here. So I'm a product manager at Wish. Wish is a US company. We are a global marketplace. We sell a wide variety of products, and we're mobile first. So I want to talk to you today about the mobile commerce opportunity abroad, but particularly this could be applied to Brazil as well. So these are stats that we all know, but e-commerce growth and the mobile opportunity in Brazil is exploding. The internet penetration in Brazil is about 75% of the population. Interestingly, about 80% of that population is also on Facebook. And I believe there's also about 60 million Instagram users in Brazil as well. So it's an active internet population that is very active on social media. 120 million people are accessing the internet in Brazil on smartphones, 60 million online shoppers. E-commerce is growing 12% annually in the country. So that's 53 billion reais in revenue in Brazil just in 2018. Mobile commerce orders grew 41% last year, and in January of this year, they grew 43%. What is Wish? So Wish is a US company, as I mentioned, where we were founded in 2010. We're a marketplace, so we have third-party merchants, and we sell in a diverse inventory mix. We actually have more than 1,000 subcategories. So we're selling everything from consumer electronics, apparel, home goods, hobby goods, fashion, as I mentioned. We also have some interesting additional services that help our merchants that sell on the platform to be more successful. So one is we have an advertising technology that we've created, which we call Product Boost. I'll explain a little bit more about that later. We also have some logistics services. So we have a warehouse fulfillment and warehousing and order fulfillment service called Fulfillment by Wish. And we also have a expedited shipping service, which we call Wish Express. We also have very strong marketing partnerships with Google and Facebook. Our CEO actually is a former Google engineer. And we also have sponsorships and do brand awareness campaigns. So we're actually on the Los Angeles Lakers jersey. We got there before LeBron James got to the Lakers, so that was great for us. And we ran a series of World Cup commercials last year, including several with Neymar called Time on Your Hands, which I encourage you to check out. They're very funny. Last year, we were actually the #1 downloaded shopping app worldwide. And more than that, in 40 countries, we're actually the #1 shopping app on Google Android. And in 20 countries, we're actually the #1 shopping app on iOS App Store. A few more data points about Wish. So we have 1 million merchants globally. About 125,000 of those are active merchants. We have about 300 million products active on our app. In terms of our consumers, we have 75 million monthly active consumers, shipping about 2 million items a day. And we sell and ship to in 80 plus shipping countries right now, shipping destinations. So e-commerce is at an inflection point. And the inflection point is the growth in mobile usage and how that's affecting what users expect and need from a e-commerce provider, e-commerce platform. And we're really trying to hone in on this. So e-commerce, sort of up to the point of mobile, was about a keyword search, taking to a search results page, and it was very targeted. You usually had an idea of what you were looking for when you went to the e-commerce site, and you were looking for results that were exactly along those lines. So what's happening now with mobile commerce is it's a different form factor, obviously, and so the experience has to be different for that consumer. So it doesn't really work anymore to rely on keyword searches, going to a results page. You just can't do that on a mobile phone. So the experience has to be more, we believe, more image-based. and it has to be about discovering products, and it has to be about matching product to consumer using data. And that's how we're differentiating against other e-com platforms. And we encourage other folks in the e-commerce space to do the same thing. And then we, speaking of the data that we're using to actually drive the feed that users see when they come to our app. So we're using a lot of social cues, usage history. We use gender, age, geography, other interests. We take all these data points, and then we give you a personalized feed. So when you come to our app as a user, you're actually, think of it as a virtual shopping mall and using your thumb to sort of scroll through a variety of products that we believe are a great match for you. How do we look at Brazil? And Brazil is an incredibly important market to us. Actually, last year, we were the second most downloaded shopping app across iOS and Android platforms in Brazil, second only to Mercado Libre. A couple more data points. So the data point on the left is from web shoppers, which says that we're now the second biggest e-com site for cross-border in Brazil. And then another data point is that we're now the sixth biggest e-com site for fashion. And we have about 6% of the market, and we're competing there against some companies that are actually exclusively focused on fashion. So that's pretty impressive. So this is a big market for us, and one that we want to keep growing and help merchants in Brazil grow as well. So I have a few tips for success based on what's worked for us at Wish. So the first is, if you're a marketplace, and a lot of e-com platforms now in Brazil are marketplaces, you should build a foundation for merchant success. So merchants are going to care hugely, obviously, about protection of their intellectual property, and we care about that as well for our merchants. So there's about, as I mentioned, about 300 million products live on Wish. And what we now do is we actually have 60 or so homegrown product detection rules, as well as we're involving our merchant community. And we're actually now essentially reviewing and filtering and looking through our product inventory and actively removing products that are, once they're, some that are even actually on the site already, right? So we're taking a look constantly at how we can have a better product assortment for our users. And this really involves having a product quality review engine. So that engine removes about 8 million products weekly, and this improves the experience for our merchants as well as for our customers. We also have built a recommendation engine, and this is the recommendation engine that determines what each user sees in their product feed when they go to the Wish app. So imagine starting with all the products on Wish, that 300 million or so potential products. So what we're trying to do is basically say, how can we get a relevant subset of that entire set of products, and then how can we do some ranking so that we can specifically show you, the end user, which products, a certain set of products in a certain order. So we take all the products on Wish, just sort of walk you through at a high level how this works. And then we do what we call candidate generation. So that's about using all those data points that I referred to earlier, the user behavior, the product attributes, and we take that entire large set of potential products and winnow it down to a smaller set of products. Because you can't do the kind of intense ranking algorithms that we then want to perform if you have an enormous set of products. It's much easier to do with a subset of products. So we take that large set, narrow it down to a subset. That's what we call our potential candidates. And we're using, to get to that, as I mentioned, these relevant data points. And then from that set of candidates, then we do our ranking. So this is then where we're now, rubber meets the road, so to speak, and we want to get to what products do we think you, the user, are most likely to actually purchase. And that then leads to the products that you see on your feed. So just emphasizing this, what every end user is seeing is personalized for that end user. So what you could be seeing is not necessarily what I'm seeing in my experience of the app. And this is where we're exploring data. we have the initial feed, so as an initial user, you may come to the site, see certain products that we think you might like. The more you engage with the product, the more we learn about you, the more we have a usage history. So eventually, actually, the app gets better and knows you more and should be giving you, or does give you, more personalized products that you're going to like and that you will buy. Another initiative that we have now is we are doing, within the app, creating a user experience where we can highlight branded products as genuine, authentic, trustworthy. And so we're really focusing on how do we differentiate and create a user experience where the customer will understand, yes, there's all these products out there, but which ones have, are certain branded products that have that are authentic and have certain qualities as a result. So it's very important, obviously, when you are showing images and you have as many products as we have, that you highlight the differences between those products. These are brands that we actually have currently selling on Wish as part of that branded experience. And now tip number 2. So platforms and merchants must win the attention of customers. So the way we see this is we've got to enable merchants, first of all, a way for them to highlight their products. So this is the product boost or advertising technology that I mentioned earlier. In this service that we offer, a merchant can pick products, they can bid for relevant keywords, and they can set a budget. And then they get this allows them to get more people to see their products, and the products that they've bid on rank higher in customer feeds. We also are running advertising on behalf of our merchants. We're doing that on Facebook and Google aggressively. And we're also doing this through emailing blasts and in-app notifications, SMS texts. As I mentioned, this is our World Cup Neymar television campaign, so we're advertising aggressively internationally. We have a Lakers sponsorship. We do sports advertising as well. So that's all about giving exposure to the products for our merchants. Then the third tip is platforms and merchants must retain customers. So interesting data point, at least in the US, I think now about 40% of US households have less than $400 liquidity available, US dollar. And so what that means is we all know that customers want value, maybe now more than ever. And so what we've done is really figured out ways of having seasonal sales and group buy discounts and offering rewards and gift cards. These are incentives that keep customers coming back and offer them great deals on products, everyday products that they need and that make their lives better. And that provides entertainment value as well. So we have the sort of a reason for the user to come back to the app every day. Another tip here is that we believe that international platforms should try to be available to merchants, e-commerce merchants everywhere. So our platform, for example, this is the merchant dashboard at Wish. So merchants can go to merchant.wish.com and they can register. So e-commerce merchants around the world can register to sell on Wish. We now have this dashboard in Portuguese, for example. So the whole flow of registering for a merchant can be done by a merchant in Brazil. And we would love that. Also, as we know, from looking at Brazil and other countries, logistics can be very challenging. Obviously, you have to take into account when you're thinking about logistics, not just the shipping prices, but the times. You have to think about what customer expectations are. So some products they may not need to have right away, but other products they may expect to be able to get them in an expedited manner. And so what we've done is basically created a specific service we call Wish Express that has a guaranteed delivery time. And in Brazil, we've launched this program earlier this year. The service level is 10 working days. So if any product qualifies for that program, we're going to give it a special promotion to the users and highlight the fact that it has that expedited service time. expedited shipping time at that service level. And of course, I think customers will recognize that there's a trade-off also between shipping time and shipping price. So if you don't mind getting the package a little slower, you're going to pay less for shipping. If you want it a little faster, you're probably going to pay more for shipping. So one thing we did when we created this Wish Express program in Brazil is we really studied how Correios defines regions, and interesting thing about how they have different shipping prices for a capital and a metro area in the state that are different from the interior of the state, and how certain capitals have a certain shipping price. Obviously, if you're in high-density areas like Sao Paulo or Rio, that's going to be different than if you're in the north of Brazil, right? So we took all this data into account, and we created, within Wish Express, actually the ability for a merchant to specify a flat rate shipping cost for different subregions. And the subregion is a logical grouping of postal codes to define a certain geographical area. So it could be that Sao Paulo city and metro area would be one subregion, for example. So this is sort of a step that we feel like is going to get to a better user experience for the merchant and for the customer as well. And it's sort of step one on our journey to addressing logistics in a challenging country like Brazil. But also, a lot of countries around the world are sufficiently large, the United States or Western Europe or other countries where this challenge applies as well. Another thing to highlight about Wish, and something that I think makes us a great model for others to follow, is that we have a culture of experimentation and high business impact. And what we do is when we're generating new ideas for products and features, we think of it in terms of the scientific method. So we create a hypothesis. So this was an interesting case for Brazil, where when we expanded globally, as I mentioned, we're selling into 80 countries around the world. We did so in a way where we did not necessarily entirely localize at first for each country's experience. So for a period of time in Brazil, you would see the display of the price would be in local currency, in reais. But then as you went to the checkout process, it would actually change to US dollar. And it wasn't a great experience, obviously. So we had a hypothesis. What if we changed that experience? So when you actually went to check out, you would pay in the local currency. So you'd have local currency from display all the way through checkout. Wouldn't that probably improve the user experience and lead to an improvement in sales? That was our hypothesis. So what we did was, and I myself have been in e-commerce for over 10 years, and not every large company operates this way, but the way Wish does it is that we roll things out as an experiment. So we take a subsection of our user base and we say, we're going to offer you a different type of experience. So we offered a certain subsection of the Brazil user base an experience where they had a checkout in local currency from start to finish. And how did that perform in terms of the sales or GMV or gross merchandise value, or is what GMV is, essentially is sales. So we studied that, and we saw that when it was consistent, it had a 10% increase in sales. So based on that, we then said, okay, now we're going to roll this out to a progressively larger amount of the user base until we get to 100% of the user base. So we take any change that we're going to make to the user experience, and we take this approach of the scientific method and progressively improving the experience. So in conclusion, it's a lot of words on this one, but the three paths to success that we described are number one, build a foundation for merchant success. And you can do that, or as I said, merchants want to protect their IP, and also they want visibility of the customer on a mobile form factor. So the solutions that we have for this are we verify merchant accounts aggressively in Brazil or anywhere, and we appropriately detect fake products and weed them, take them off the site. And we also personalize that product feed for the customer. And we look at merchant retention and impressions as our metrics for how well we're doing. In terms of the second path to success, getting the customer's attention, there's a lot of competition with other merchants for online eyeballs. So we're allowing the merchants to bid for keywords. There's also competition among other e-commerce platforms. So we are running advertising aggressively on behalf of our merchants, and we're looking at impressions and revenue per impression as our metrics for how well we're doing. In terms of retaining the customers, we know customers are deal hunters, and customers also buy across a multiplicity of categories and products, and the distances lead to long delivery times, and that's bad for the customer experience. So we are offering sales, we're offering reward programs, we're diversifying our inventory selection through third-party merchants around the world. We are also providing those express shipping options that I mentioned. And we're looking at customer lifetime value, the products that we have on the platform, and our delivery time as our metrics for success. And we see the future of shopping online as being one where there's infinite selection, where there's universal coverage anywhere you are in the world, where there's efficient navigation on a mobile form factor especially, and where there's ultimate convenience and any product you want is able to buy at the tip of your fingertips. And we look forward to more success in Brazil and growing the ecosystem, e-commerce ecosystem here. Thank you.